Who am I? I am K0BJJ. I'm Ben Jutting out of Newton, Iowa. I'm currently a client relationship consultant with US Bank in Newton. I was general class operator since 2020. Jasper County Emergency Coordinator 2021. YouTube content creator, which is why I have that lovely camera pointed at me and I have a microphone on because this is going live on now K0BJJ amateur radio. I used to run an amateur radio and a storm chasing channel that was combined. Decided to split it up because some people like amateur radio and they don't like storm chasing, vice versa. I also created another channel called The Juttings, which is an all about, and just recently started hiking with Ben J. So I founded Jutting Media LLC in 2024, regional storm chaser for NWS Quad Cities, Des Moines area. I run all over central Iowa, south central Iowa, and this year I was branching more over to Iowa City, so that would be Quad Cities. And now actually in the last month or two, I've been actually up in La Crosse district. So, storm spotting versus storm chasing. Cut and dry. Storm chasers are glory hunters. Storm chasers are glory hunters. Your storm spotters are your individuals on the ground that actually know the terrain. They're calling into an organized net control. They're calling into National Weather Service. I am a hybrid of the two. I'm out there for the I'm out there to get information out to National Weather Service, which is why I do select the districts I am in. I have ways to contact via phone or other means to National Weather Service, Quad Cities, or Des Moines. Des Moines gets tired of me calling sometimes. That's why I like coming down to Warren County, because they're organized net control. I can bug them and not National Weather Service. But basic difference between the two. Basic thing, you want to set a plan. If you have an Aries team with a storm response plan, abide by it. And then another thing is we monitor Storm Prediction Center daily. I can't speak for a lot of other areas. I am up at 5 a.m. every day looking at Storm Prediction Center for this 8-day outlook. So I can tell you right now, we are good for the next 3 days. Unless they changed it since I looked at it at 5 a.m., which is completely possible. Storm chasing amateur radio. I don't know if any of you remember this little joy that happened. And I'm and this was plugged into a DMR net. So
2 to 3 miles. I've got debris wafting. I might have to back up.
I was way further away from this tornado than I had thought. I was actually about 10 miles away from it. This is just on the other side of Bevington. So this is that's Highway 92 right there. I have my oldest son filming. So nice little rope tornado. And after this experience with the Iowa DMR weather net, I will never report back into them. I will only go to local nets. And if I played the whole video, you'll probably hear why I ended up having to call this tornado into National Weather Service myself after reporting it to the net. So, but it was a nice little rope. This is about a half mile away. This was from my old supervisor that actually took this video. If I would have just stood at his house, which I debated setting up at his house, I could have had these views. So, if I remember right, it was a little EF1. They had 1 or 2 structures get hit. So, not a bad way to start that. It allows us as amateur radio operators to report in what we're seeing to Net Control, National Weather Service. Net Control ultimately disseminates the information between what is good to go to National Weather Service and what isn't, or local authorities. So if I'm calling in, I have heavy rain, and Jim over there is calling in, I've got a tornado hitting a house. Which one do you think Net Control's calling in? The tornado. So that's why amateur radio and the storm spotting, storm chasing really pans out, because we have those trained net control operators determining what information needs to go where, which is a benefit, because when we're trying to stay in good graces with EMA Sheriff's Office, National Weather Service, we don't want heavy rain reports getting called in. We want the more prudent information, the life and death situation, the wall clouds. That's the stuff we want going through. That's what our net control is ultimately responsible for. So, and that's right there. It allows for net control, not, us not to tie up unnecessary emergency lines. So that is the important part about that. Tools of the trade. You can't see a tornado, you can't see anything without your eyeballs. So those are very important. Motor vehicle, I know a lot of people who will say, will go right out in their front yard. That's fine. I encourage people to get to know a certain area that they feel comfortable with. If they're a spotter, high point of vantage, see a long ways. If you can see the weather coming from 10 miles away, you have a lot better understanding of it when it hits you than if you go right outside and you're like, yeah, I need to go to the basement. Radios, mobile HT, limitations are only the capability of the net. Radar, I use Radar Omega and Radarscape. They both have a free and paid service. I pay for the Radar Omega Gamma subscription. This allows me to see detailed wind data as well as prediction overlays. Every time a mesoscale discussion comes out from the National Weather Service, I have it. Cell phone, obvious reasons, you see it, call it in, especially if you don't have an organized net control. An anemometer, which I have my vehicle mount that I haven't put on my new vehicle yet. This is a in-speed anemometer. This allows me to stay safely in my vehicle measuring wind speeds when I have baseball-sized hail or heavy torrential rain going on. So this just pulls mounts, and then it's a little bike monitor. So, yeah, and we just tested it out in the parking lot. My girlfriend and my girlfriend's daughter, actually, she's asked what it was. So we were actually sitting in there, actually out here in the hall, blowing on it, and yeah, we got an 18 mile an hour wind right here in the hallway. So I was the one blowing on it, the 11-year-old. So she was watching the gauge. So it was my hot air this time. The calipers, and I didn't bring them in, measuring hail diameter. If you can call in the National Weather Service and say, I have 2-inch hail, that means a lot more to them and say, I have hail the size of $1. I have hail the size of a $50. If you can give them the exact dimensions, that helps them with their reporting. That helps them with where things happened a lot more than the general size. They will tell you, throw a penny next to it, throw some standard-sized object next to it when you report it. They'll take that. If I'm calling in 2.5-inch hail, they're not guessing. They know it's 2.5-inch hail. And they know it's quarter size. That's what I love those calipers. I found Walmart's got really cheap ones. I have one in the truck. I have one sitting in my office. So if I'm sitting at home and also I'm like, it sounds like it's hailing outside. I run outside real quick, check, see if it's what they consider severe. Severe hail is considered 1-inch diameter or larger. But if you have something like a 1/2 inch, they want to know. National Weather Service wants any kind of information you can get it to them. It's just whether or not it's a priority or not. I'll do rain reports via Twitter. Hey, we got 3 inches of rain in Newton last night on Twitter. I'll just tweet them over that. So, or X, whatever it's called now. But yeah, APRS. This is one of my favorite subjects because I believe if you are able to, all net controls and all chasers and spotters should be using APRS. You know how much easier and more efficient it is for me to go K0BJJ to net at my location I have, which I do with Warren County. Warren County is really good about this one. I love spotting in down this area. I just call in. They know where I'm at because I'm running an APRS system. So I'm calling in, I have this here. Easy way to report. We're not guessing, I'm at the intersection of here and here. No, that takes all of that out of all of the equation. Plus, if something were to happen, and this is the reason why my mother likes APRS, because she will watch me when I'm chasing. If all of a sudden I go from here to here really quick, we know something happened. It gives, in the instance that you did not set up properly and you get hit by severe weather and you are injured, killed, whatever, APRS will give someone looking for you a first location, the last location you are known. So they're going to send all that resource there versus, well, we think he was, on 92, he was just west of Indianola. I don't know if he was quite over to the interstate. This takes all the guesswork out of it. My APRS packets go out every 2 minutes. So some people say it's a little excessive. If I'm looking for tornadoes, 2 minutes is a lifetime. 2 minutes is the difference between that's a funnel and now I'm in the funnel over there. So I love the APRS system. Like I said, all net controls, I believe all chasers, spotters should be running this purely for safety. But it takes all your location guessing, all your location information out. You don't have to worry about that, especially if everyone's tracking. Now, not everyone's going to be on board. Not everyone's going to have what they think is capability. My phone is actually how I run all my APRS right now because I'm struggling with my radio. So if you're looking on APRS.fi, which is what that screenshot came off of, you see K0BJJ-10. Like you probably will right now if you load it up, because I don't think I turned my tracker off. That's from my phone. Now that drops out if you lose cell network. But with the way cell networks are right now, it's pretty rare that you're going to lose that. Not impossible, but pretty rare. So, okay, if you're ever watching me, -10 is me, -9 is the mobile radio. So that's the difference in mine between the packet and the designations. Training, minimum storm spotter training class. National Weather Service puts them on every year. They've gone to do digital one every year. If you cannot attend, Norman puts out one every year online on YouTube. If you are purely looking to spot tornadoes, you don't care about the hail, you don't care about anything else, National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma, the Storm Prediction Center, they put a presentation out on YouTube every year. It's wonderful. I actually do it in addition to the Des Moines class because who knows tornadoes better than Oklahoma? Especially Norman, who almost gets hit every year. So they know their stuff. Recommended training, first aid, CPR, AED. Up until recently, I had my certifications. I actually was a certified CPR instructor shortly after high school. With my new job, the bank doesn't think I need it, and I haven't sought it out, but CPR doesn't change a lot in the last 2 decades. So I'm pretty comfortable with 30 compressions to 2 breaths. I also carry a light trauma kit and a basic stop the bleed kit in my truck. So when I'm chasing, I have a trauma kit with trauma shears, tourniquet, wound packing. I'm comfortable dealing with that. If you're not, don't carry it, call 911. ARRL emergency communications class. That'll teach you how to talk on the radio. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but emergency communications is different than your normal rag chew net. You have to kind of think about what you want to say before you say it. You can't be rambling a minute and a half on something you're seeing when there is potential for life and death to happen. So you want me to sum that class up? Keep it short and sweet. This is who I am. This is where I am. This is what I see. If net control needs you to repeat, they'll ask you to. We don't need to tie up a minute and a half for a 30-second transmission. Spotter Network has a lot of classes out there, and if you want to be affiliated with them and work with them, their network, they have actually quite a bit. And then Ryan Hall is actually one of the ways I learned how to read radar. So if you're into radar reading, which if you are out actively chasing, you need to be really in tune with your radar and its limitation. He is a really good resource. He will break down on stream what he is seeing and why. If you throw in his chat, if people will throw in his chat, how did you determine there was a tornado here? How did you determine there was large hail here? He will actually go and actually explain what he's seeing. And I tell you what, my radar reading game has gone up considerably because of them. And then correct convective chronicles if you're into forecasting. So looking at the soundings and stuff. They have a wonderful series on how to actually read the skew charts. It's really, really complex. I'm not going to lie. It's taken a lot for me, and I still don't have it mastered, anywhere close to mastered. I've got enough to determine when I look at a skew chart now, yeah, there's probably going to be something that happens. But they break it down considerably. Also, they do break down on past events. So I believe they just put out in the past 6 months, Greenville. I know they put out a video on Winterset, Joplin. The major tornadoes that have hit, the Convective Chronicles will break them down. They'll tell you the forecasting up to the event, take you through the event, and then after the event, which is really nice. And I think that's my last little slide here. So when it comes down to, we're the eyes on the ground because we cannot depend. And I'm going to have police, fire, and everyone yell at me for saying this. I don't care. We can't depend on them to keep eyes on storms. If a house gets hit, where do you think police, fire are going? They're not watching the other anymore. They're going to the house. National Weather Service has said it for years. We need spotters on the ground reporting weather. And that's because they know they cannot rely on their served agencies. Served agencies have limitations. And those limitations are availability. That's the main one. But if you can get to that house and you can call them, that's one thing that they don't have to worry about. If you're sitting watching the fire truck go by and all of a sudden another funnel cloud pops over there, now you're reporting that funnel cloud because he's not worried about that. He's going to that emergency. So that's why we are so important. And integrating amateur radio not only gives us wider capability, especially with our repeater network. I mean, I pulled up the Indianola repeater, one of the Indianola repeaters from Monroe today. I couldn't hit it, I couldn't talk to it, but I could hear it. The Grimes 610, you hear that from forever away. K0IRO repeater out of Mingo. That thing I keyed from Vinton last night on my way back from Madison. I drove up to Madison and back last night. So, the repeater coverage and getting nets, organized nets on those, allowing us to disseminate information into National Weather Service and whatnot, is the way that we're actually going to expand our outreach in amateur radio to these served agencies. Because if they can see us performing and doing what we need to do, then they're going to rely on Warren County areas. They're going to rely on Dallas County areas. And I will say this, Dan Case, he's coming up after me. You talk to him about what he's doing over there in Dallas County. I have a hard time determining who has a better operated Aries team in a severe weather situation, Dallas County or Warren County. Both which are set up extremely well. I have chased and worked in both districts, and that when I come in as an outside chaser, I check in. Hey, I'm checking in, I'm working in your area. They know I'm there. And then when I leave, hey, I'm taking off. Just so they know what's working in the area, they know the resource that they have available. And they are, like I said, their net controls are solid. With that, I think I have hit all my talking points. Do we have any questions?
Question on the APRS.
Yes.
So is that an app? Is that like an APRS?
APRS, it's APRS Droid on the phone, on Droid. Let me pull it up here quick. So I think I'm pretty sure I'm still beaconing right now. Nope, I didn't beacon on the way down here. But yeah, it's APRS Droid. And it'll allow you to pull in your call sign, do a designation. And like I said, if you don't have an APRS radio, the likelihood of us losing cell coverage is slim with them putting up towers every 50 feet now, or so it seems. But it does happen. The Dre show killed out all communications for Cedar Rapids. They were using HF communication, NVIS HF communication to get out. So it does happen. But the likelihood of such a wide-scale event happening is pretty slim. Not unheard of, but pretty slim. And I would say, and I want to leave it at that because we had another, derecho 2 months ago that swept from northwest Iowa almost over to the Waterloo area. Another thing, I am usually watching all the severe weather in the state at any point in time. If you haven't heard of the Iowa Radio Operators Discord, I founded that. I like to keep an eye on severe weather. Usually when severe weather's in the area, I'm in the Aries chat and we're discussing what's going on there. We're disseminating information across the state. So Discord would be another resource if you are on it or would like to be on it. So love that community we built there. I can only plug it enough. Jim over there is a local celebrity on there, but not for the storm chasing stuff. This guy just knows how to get on a repeater and keep a repeater active. Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Jim. So I'm sitting over there. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
So visiting with people around the state, it seems like the new emergency managers coming in, replacing the old ones, are doing away with storm spotters and the amateur radio, and they want no part of those people, and they only want trained personnel of the police, the sheriff, firefighters out there doing it. But the problem is, like you said, they're doing other stuff. They don't have time to look at that, but for some reason, there's been something said within the state of Iowa or whatever's going on here to make those people change their mind. And to me, that's kind of a bad deal. So I helped over at Greenfield there last year. There was no cell phone coverage. Even the Iowa interruptible radio system was not working. We had no communications over there. So if it wasn't for ham radio stuff, nothing would have been going on. But
I will say this, Dan, who's following it up, I saw the topic on that. I'm glad he's following me up because he's doing amazing things over in Dallas County. He is showing the value to them, and that gets into the state EOC, that gets into the state level. These guys are going to figure out real quick in a hurry if they do away with their Aries team, like what happened in Mobile, Alabama. I don't know if any of you heard about that when the tornado hit down there a few years ago. First thing hit, Emergency Ops Center. They lost all emergency personnel, all vehicles, the moment the tornado hit the town. They had to rely on outside help. So that might be the direction they're going. But the way to win those people over, I'm going to refer to Dan Case because he does a wonderful job over in Dallas County with that.
yeah, I know. I just moved from Henry and Des Moines County up here to Marion County, and Marion County and Des Moines County want nothing to do with ham radio stuff.
They'll learn. That's all I'm going to say. They'll learn. They don't want us until they need us, and when they need us, they go, oh crap, we wish we had them.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
heard Dan talk about that before, and if he doesn't talk about that in this talk right afterwards, ask him about
Okay.
it, because he has given ways of how to present to those emergency management people what our value is, and you may have to go in there personally and say, here's what I bring to the table, here's how I can help you. And so if Dan doesn't talk about this, I've heard him talk about it before, so mention
Okay.
it.
And it was a big topic of discussion at the state RES
Yes.
meeting
Yes.
a month or so ago. It was a big topic statewide being addressed throughout the year.
Okay.
And I know amateur radio in Warren or in Jasper County took a real big hit after I became emergency coordinator due to some club politics. But right now the new emergency manager down there is starting to work in. He's not really happy with what's been happening. And I'm trying to work an angle. I'm not going to step up. I was named the emergency coordinator. I might still be the emergency coordinator for Aries, but I'm not going to be taking part in that because I like the field work better than actually the coordination. I did reach out to the emergency manager and say, hey, if this is the direction you want to go and you want to talk, we can. And I'm waiting for Jamie to give me a reply because it sounds like he's pulling in Polk County Aries members over to Jasper. So the ones that do see the value in it, they're gonna have a lot better thing going for them when stuff hits the fan, especially because Iowa is extremely rural. What do we have limited resources on? Everything. Like I said, fire trucks going one way, they're no longer storm spotting, and now we have a tornado that touched down 20 miles away, or 10, 20 miles away. They're focused on this house, they're focused on this car accident. They can't watch that. They can't get that reported in.
It's good that Jamie's doing that because he came from Mahaska County up to Jasper County, so that's good that he's open-minded on that.
Yeah, no, he's reached out to Jason, the Polk County Emergency Coordinator, and Jason's been talking to me, and we've been kind of doing a triangle thing. And I've reached out to Jamie directly and said, hey, if you want a local resource, because I can throw a rock on the EOC from my house. I mean, I'm that close to it. I'm like, if you want a local resources versus pulling Jason out of Polk, talk. I'm like, I'm not going to lead your team. When this stuff hits, I'm going to be in the field because that's where I prefer to be, but I'll help. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Grimes 610 repeater. I'm just going to put a plug in. Polk County has just in the last couple of weeks started a Skywarn net on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. on the Grimes 146.610 repeater. So it's a 7 p.m. And so it's an actual Skywarn net discussing Skywarn topics, and like he has like training sessions and stuff like that with that net. So I just want to throw that out there. And that's just started in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Jason's.
7 p.m. Sunday evenings on the Grimes 610.
And then I believe Warren County does theirs 7:30 Saturdays? No, they have a couple nets throughout the week. I usually try to tune into them when I have a radio set up at the shack because I can usually get in down here. Another thing is radiograms. If you don't know what a radiogram is, look it up because those are fun. If you have a mass event and you need to relay information and they ask for formal written traffic, they're looking for radiograms, they're looking for IC-213 forms. IC-213 is what FEMA uses, radiograms is what amateur radio does. I have done a practice run radiogram where I sent my mom a happy birthday message during a simulated emergency test just to practice using a radiogram. And it took 2 days to get there. And given my folks are on the Minnesota-Iowa line, so I mean, I could have drove it there quicker, but considerably. But I mean, just stuff like that, because with hurricane season popping up, you could be sitting on HF listening to the hurricane net, and someone needs to get health and welfare traffic out to their family in Des Moines. Well, hey, you're right here. You take in that emergency, you take in that formal written traffic, and you're the one to deliver it. And now you just set peace of mind to people, people here locally, or you just consider it delivered bad news, depending what you get. I have helped out with the Hurricane WatchNet purely as a relay. It's pretty rare that we get health and welfare up here, but it's interesting to listen to the communications that are going through, especially on a high frequency. So, but yeah, radiograms, they're fun. Until you understand them, they're kind of a pain, but they're really simple. And I probably should have thrown that up here, but I didn't think about that till standing right now. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
So one of the things I took a storm spotter class a couple of years ago down in Tumla at the high school down there. And so when you sign your name on that paper to be a spotter and stuff, they will call you and ask you what's going on. One day they called and they said, hey, you're the only person in Pella, what took place down there. So, and then I told them, hey, we had hail, the size of a nickel or whatever, and winds and stuff like that. So that's interesting.
I got a call from Des Moines asking the other day if I was still alive because I hadn't hardly reported anything this year. And I'm like, have we had any weather to report? And they're like, well, a little bit, and you're usually on it. And that went into a personal conversation about work and my boss. We'll just leave it at that. No, I am out there even from work. I do a lot of my reporting to the National Weather Service Twitter feed, especially for non-severe events. So the other day we had huge rolling shelf clouds. We had tornado warnings popped. I don't know if any of you have heard about that tornado warning that's caused Iowa Speedway to go into a complete lock or shutdown. Yeah, no, I was watching that from the roof of US Bank in Newton. And I saw the videos, I saw that. I actually went and looked for damage immediately after getting off work, couldn't find anything. I'm happy to say National Weather Service got another angle, and that funnel cloud was probably 200 to 300 feet off the ground yet. But from the angle of Iowa Speedway, I will say this, when they found out that that was a false alarm, I'm like, no, they did exactly what they should have. From the angle they had, it looked like a tornado on the ground. And with an untrained eye, without anyone to confirm or deny that, they reacted exactly how they should have. They got everyone to safety. So I commend them for that with that NASCAR event. But then again, where were the eyes on the ground? I mean, I'm sure Reasoner. Hell no, it was Reasoner. I'm sure they had a fire department out there. Maybe. It's all volunteer. Where was the sheriff's office? Sheriff's office was occupied with Iowa Speedway. Other around the county. So spotters are very important. Our eyes and what we can see and what we can report. And if you don't know what you have, that's why I report a lot of it via Twitter. I'll sit out there and I'm like, man, this looks like it could be something. Tweet at NWS Des Moines. Hey, look what just rolled through Newton. Send. Usually get within a few minutes, hey, thanks for the report. If they're really busy because they have actual severe event going down, I get a reply maybe 2 days later. But National Weather Service wants to know what's going on in the ground. If you don't know if it's important or not, Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it now, that's how I report all my questionable reports in. If I can confirm life and death situation, my first call is to National Weather Service Des Moines or Quad Cities direct on the phone. If I see it hitting structure, I'm calling 911. If I'm not reporting into net control. If I'm down here and the Warren County's got a net control up, I'm not worried about that phone call because I know the net control is solid. But if I'm out, let's say I've been out in Anamosa the last 2 days. I don't know any other area set up out there. So if I'm going by Anamosa and I see a tornado on the ground, I'm calling probably Quad Cities at that point and saying, I got an active tornado on the ground, this is my location. Just so that way they know. But if I see it hit a house, I'm dialing 911 and I'm going to the house. I do actually carry breaching equipment with me. I am a little bit more gun-ho than a lot of people should be. Let's just put it that way. I am not afraid to go into someone's house if it's been destroyed. And I actually did that a couple of years ago when Greenfield, that tornado came up and it clipped those houses south in Nevada. I was jumping up and jumping into people's houses to see if people were there. And we had a couple of ambulances out there, but yeah, that was a fun day. Safety is the key when it comes to any of this. Don't become a victim. You can ask TwistX down south of Oklahoma how that worked out. They got hit by a 1.5 mile wide EF3 towards Joplin, and now there's a memorial for them. Situational awareness is key when you're out there. Don't be afraid to evacuate. I have run from more storms than I've run to. Winterset, when that came up and clipped over to the east side of Des Moines, I was perfect intercept position, but considering what I was hearing on the radio and the reports I was seeing, I jumped on 163 and I was running 100 mile an hour towards Prairie City. I got back on at Monroe and I saw the storm as it was hitting the drive-in in Newton. I did not see the tornado itself, but from my APRS signal to the report of the time when it was down, I was looking directly at it. I was just so far away I could not see the tornado. So safety is key. You can't call anything in if you're dead. That being said, mistakes happen. If you watch the chaser feeds at all like I do, every year someone gets hurt. And a lot of that is congestion and chasing. You get a lot of tornado tourists. I don't know if anyone noticed this last year when we had severe weather moving through Indianola. I actually met Reed Timmer. If you don't know who that is, he's probably the best meteorologist, storm chaser in the field. I met him out in the parking lot here. Gave him a fist bump. We were running the same storm. And his team looks at me and they're like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, this is a giant windbag, but I'm going to stick with it for a little bit. I didn't think there was a tornado on the ground, but I was already down here. I'm going to run in with it. I had my youngest son with me, my little one with me. So I chase with family. I mean, some people say that's a little crazy, but that Pleasantville, my oldest was with me. One Winters, Greenfield, my youngest was with me, and I actually had to make a call to fall back into a forward flank versus go cut through, hook slice for his safety. I'd rather have taken the baseball size hail, which I did, versus cut through there and potentially have the tornado on my lap because of who was in the back seat. Meanwhile, we had part of Greenfield raining upon us from the other side because of the gravity of that. So always keep situational awareness. If you're looking at spotter locations, east, northeast, southwest, 4 directions, make sure you can go any direction you need to. Do not corner yourself. You hear horror stories about that every year where, well, they had no place to go. Well, whose fault was that? It wasn't the storms. So, anything else? Thoughts, concerns? Thank you for the patience when it came to the technical issues. Next time I'll remember I actually need to bring some connectivity there. Well, thank you all for coming. If you want to take a look at the vehicle mount anemometer, it is an InSpeed. That's about, I think it was $120, pretty cheap. Last year I was running a Ford F-150. I had a roof rack that I put on there and put some grating on there because it had a moonroof, and hail plus moonroof equals no more moonroof. So I had a roof rack on there, which I had mounted this on, and if you look out in the parking lot, there's an F-250 out there with a 62-inch antenna with a really weird metal layout that used to be for hauling a canoe, and that is going to be the new setup. That's going to go right on the front pike of it. And then I got to work on my hail guard for the windshield and stuff. But for the most part, we're calming down for severe weather season. I'm not prioritizing that. If I got to chase and I lose a windshield, well, I lose a windshield. And I say gotta. This is an addiction for me. I'm not going to lie. This is an utter addiction for me. I love doing this. I love getting out. This is the way I give back. Being a banker on a day-to-day really drains your soul. So if you can figure out a way to give out and get back to the community, storm spotting, storm chasing is how I do it. It's my adrenaline rush. And 9 times out of 10, you just see a pretty looking sunset. You see some nice looking rain. That one time that you need to call something in though, that's why you're there. So.
Sometimes crews, I was coming home from work there at Mount Pleasant, and the University of Oklahoma was out parked in my driveway out there west of town. They had the Doppler on wheels going, and there's like 27 vehicles, and about 10 or 12 of them were those interceptor cars overall.
University of Oklahoma. Yeah, if you see the Doppler going, well, that's like the bomb squad, that old saying, bomb squad technician. If you see me running, yeah.
It's like, stay here, do not pull in your driveway.
I see Reed Timber going down the road, I'm following him. When I see him going in, I stay back, but no.
So what does your insurance company say when you total on a vehicle every couple of years due to hail?
I don't report anything on hail. I just take the damage. I'll be honest, I don't report any hail damage on my vehicles because I know I'm intentionally damaging these things. So my F-150 looked like a nice little golf ball, and then the engine blew up on it. Now Dad has graciously given me his F-250, and I told him I'd try to keep it in somewhat decent shape, but he already knows what's coming. I'm actually, when I get more financially sound, I'm going to have a chase vehicle and a daily driver. We're not there yet. I'm going to have a vehicle strictly for just getting out in the mud, and getting and doing this, and I'm going to have my daily driver. Until then, finances. I'm in banking, and I can tell you this, finances suck. And, well, there's more insight on that. I'm not going to put over on YouTube, let's just put it that way, but we see it every day in the banking industry, how the economy is affecting everyone, and it's really sad. But, hey, and that being said, if you don't have the means to go out and actually sit and spot, like I said, I prefer people to know an area and go out and have some high points, but if the only way you can spot is to go out on your front deck and look, that information will be important too. All information we can get in about these weather events helps. It's just whether or not the priority on that information. So, oh, I keep hitting that. Anything else? All right. Well, when Dan gets set up, he'll have all that lovely information about how to get your local sheriff's department and EMA to listen to you. But until then, thank you all for watching. Wow. Hey, this is going on YouTube, so yeah, thank you all for watching. I was really happy when Tim reached out and asked if I wanted to do this, because this is something I'm adamant about. I'm trying to get into Newton High School to do at least a kids class. I want to get the youth integrated into amateur radio. If you happen to meet my girlfriend and her 3 kids, I'm working on them right now. My youngest is kind of into it. Every time I get on, my little guy, every time I get on the radio, he usually tells me to give him the mic. So if you ever hear K0BJJ and he sounds like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, it's probably my little guy, because he takes the microphone from me, which is what we need. We need the younger generation to get engaged. We need the younger generation to keep this growing, and this is one of the reasons why. So with that, nothing else. Thank you all.